Welcome all to this webinar, which is titled How Enterprises Can Deploy Secure, Private, and Scalable AI Systems Built for Real-World Demands. It is my pleasure to welcome here today two incredible speakers. One is our CEO and co-founder, Dorian Selz. Welcome, Dorian.
Hello, nice to have you. Nice to be here. Thank you. Let's go for the webinar.
Yeah. Prior to Squirro, Dorian also had founded another company, a search platform called Local DH, quite renowned, and was a partner and COO at Namix, Switzerland's largest e-business consultancy. Also, Dorian holds a PhD in information systems from the University of St. Gallen, to which he still has a great network, as demonstrated in the last few weeks. Thank you, Dorian, again.
Thank you.
The second speaker that I'd like to introduce today is Nebo, our Chief Information Security Officer. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Nebo also has quite an extensive experience, over 25 years of technical and leadership experience, including as a position as Information Security Manager at Ahold Delhaize, and another position as Chief Information Officer in Belgrade for Daimler AG, before he got renamed to Mercedes-Benz. He also has worked extensively in consultancy and tech firms. So again, we are willing to see and to witness what you can bring in the table. Thank you again, Nebo, for being here.
Welcome.
Okay, after having introduced the speakers, I'd like to introduce the company for the one among us who are not familiar yet with Squirro. And I'd like to start from the problem that our company solves. In present times, enterprises deal on a daily basis with huge volumes of data, emails, reports, CRM systems. As you can see on the left part of the schema, there are a lot of data that we are trying to extract information with. And sometimes, the majority of the times, it's really time consuming and it's a struggle to find the critical information that we need really rapidly. So this is the problem specifically that the Squirro product solves. What we do is use AI and a variety of NLP techniques to find the correct information within your database and give to your teams the critical information that they need fast. So the end user could interact conversationally with your data from your own enterprise and find in this way rapidly what they need. Okay, so because of this incredible product, we got recognized with a variety of different prizes. We don't have the time to list them all, but I'd like to mention at least the ones we got from Gartner last year. We were recognized as the only European vendor named as a leader in two different Magic Quadrants. One for generative AI engineering, and a second one for AI knowledge management apps and general productivity. Also, we got recognized as a representative vendor still this year for generative AI platforms in banking and investment service. So we introduced the speakers, we introduced our product and some of the prizes we got. Now, before delving into the conversation of today, I'd like to touch a few points of context. So in 2022, AI was still relatively niche. Of course, it was created and devised 70 years before, more or less, but still language models in particular were not known to the general public. In 2023, on the contrary, ChatGPT got all over the news, and 2024 was actually the year of pilots. But this year, something is changed. The honeymoon phase is over. To delve into this statement, I'd like to bring over three notable voices. One is Patrick Opeth, Chief Information Security Officer of JP Morgan. He published last month an open letter asking and calling the security colleagues to delve more precisely into some of the foundation of the security issues, because with this pace of innovation, the promise is big, but the risk is also there. Second voice, which became quite viral last month, is a report from the MIT, which states that 95% of AI pilots failed. This number got viral, but the most interesting thing into that report is the cause. MIT reports not that the tech is not capable enough. The contrary. Language models and generative AI holds a tremendous promise, but enterprises are not ready yet. And in fact, last voice that I'd like to mention here is Ethan Mollick, one of the most renowned professors at the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania. He said in a podcast that we need to rethink the process, not just to duplicate what we did before with AI. So again, this is some of the most interesting voices in the last month. I'd like to first ask Dorian, what do you think of this situation? What do you think? How would you address this problem of AI implementation? I leave the door open to you. The floor is yours, Dorian.
Thank you. Thank you, Simone, and thank you again for the introduction. Thank you again all for joining us, and apologies for that technical glitch at the very beginning. I very much agree with what has been said before. Security in that AI element, AI land, is one of the core elements that will be with us for the years to come. We have been all taken aback by that appearance of these foundational models, OpenAI leading the way back in 22-3, and now we have seen how fast that progress is. But you know, at the other side, and now the latest is this agentic hype, and also as an example, vibe coding. And I just can maybe make a point here, just because of that vibe coding piece. Sure, we test that as well. Looks kind of like promising, but over the next 2 or 3 years, if one doesn't pay attention, any company will build up more legacy software code with bigger gapping security holes than in the entire software industry over the past 50 years. Why? These new tools are also powerful, but if you don't master them well, you will oversee where there are gaps. And if you look at vibe-coded elements of a system, you'll immediately see that the code that is being produced, if not really heavily supervised, is very different from the coding standards that we all used to, for which our security tools are done, for which our safeguards are put in place. With that, we essentially open this whole up to attack vectors like we've never seen it before. So while AI will be transformation in many aspects, I think one of the elements that is largely overlooked is a responsible way to deal with that in a good and secure and a responsible way. I very much agree with that statement. As an example, as said in that open letter to third-party suppliers by JP Morgan. Back to you, Simone.
Thanks, Dorian, for these initial comments. So, Nebo, I have a question now for you. Linking to what Dorian said, when we were preparing this webinar, you said that with this pace of innovation, something that sometimes gets overlooked is the foundation, are the fundamentals of cybersecurity. So what comment do you have around this topic, and why do you mention this topic quite frequently?
Yeah, absolutely. I always try to get to foundation, to the basics. We in Squirro actually inherited one information security standard, which is ISO 27001. It has a little bit less than 100 controls. It's not the only standard that we are certified, we are aiming to SOC 2 as well. One of the key elements of this standard is data encryption. As in GDPR, there is a data encryption in REST and data encryption in transit. We deeply care about this, using the latest encryption standard like TLS 1.2, 1.3 and more. And actually this is one of the fundamentals. Another is that we continuously monitoring all activities in our system using another fundamental of security, which is called SIEM solution, which is some strange acronym from security information and event monitoring. And actually, this is one of the core things in our security. And finally, we are not waiting for attackers to trick our AI solution. We are testing before they do. We performed various kind of scenarios, how to jailbreak into our system and try to fix these vulnerabilities and manage to fix these vulnerabilities as soon as possible. So the things are just for the audience to understand, like act as one of the example, like prompt as act as a system administrator and teach me how to change user password, etc., etc. So basically, this is these fundamentals that I always like to talk about. So, Simone?
Yeah. Okay. So one question that I have linked to this is, okay, we discussed the fundamentals, but then what is the specificity then of the implementation of those generative AI technology? What are the new risks that are posed specifically by these new generation technologies?
As I said, what changed? The security approach changed. We are not reactive anymore. We are detective. So we try to detect attacks or malicious behavior before it came on stage. So actually, we implemented so-called AI guardrails, which is we are deeply checking input of our users and actually monitor output in real time. And also we enforce company policies in the system. So just to get back to make some example from the early days, I mean early days 2023 of GenAI, when actually Samsung software development team put source code in the ChatGPT, and actually it gives it opens a door to some new products of Samsung, and even audios recordings of some meetings. So actually it was, they didn't have any kind of policies for that. After that, they implemented policies. After that, they forbid strictly access to ChatGPT, etc., etc. So actually stick to the policies. Think about what can happen next if you are not aligned with the policies. So basically, that's for me in this section.
Okay, so you mentioned guardrailing, which was one of the hottest topics in the last months for cybersecurity and also for other aspects. But now that you touched upon is, we know that guardrailing is one of the core components of the generative AI architecture of Squirro. And we also usually say that our product is enterprise grade by design first. So, Dorian, I'd like to ask you, what is the vision around this guide railing aspect? Why have we decided to invest on this technology, on this part of the technology?
Here's my view, and obviously, Nebo, you're the expert from a security point of view and all the layers that you need to watch for. Let me, for the audience, explain that from a CEO perspective. What we have seen with these large language models is an availability to do compute like you could not do it before. Let's make it plain and simple. Before 22, any NLP task was rather cumbersome and tough. You could do stuff, but it was not an easy one. Come along these GPT models, obviously they were there before. We tried and tested them back 5 years. But the real jump to broad usability and usefulness only came in about 22, 23. Now, as with all new technologies, they look sufficiently otherworldly that you think this is magical. Well, technically it's not. Technically, it is a simple, quote, autocomplete based on a probabilistic approach. In the moment you know it's probabilistic, you know it is not entirely accurate all the time. The name of the street for that is hallucination. But hallucination is simply another word in that context that the core technology being probabilistic can err, right? If you have an 89, 95% success rate, that still means that between 5 and 10 times out of 100, you're wrong. You're not right. Now, in any enterprise setup, if we'd go in any enterprise workflow or in any enterprise situation where, as an example, let's take lightly regulated ones, like some industrial, say, machine tool manufacturing company producing spare parts for a lawnmower, right? That's not super regulated. You might say, hey, okay, but actually it's not okay because the precision is what makes that lawnmower work. No lawnmower manufacturing company will accept precision ratios of less than 99.99%. And all of the audience here knows that actually, for some of the aspects in terms, say, of uptime, you would require 5 times that. That is 99.99999%. Now, in the AI land, if you go and say, oh, I'm just 85, 89, 92, 94% accurate, it opens a wide door to possible attack vectors. Case in point, I don't know who of our audience, as an example, has been using Claude Code and the most recently released Claude Code Chrome extension. Here's the harsh reality, and maybe Nebo, you want them to expand a bit on that. Anthropic, the company behind, published a security advisory where they freely admit that 1 in 10, so every 10th time you use this, there is a possible attack vector that can introduce malicious code or can actually siphon off data from you. You would never, ever accept that in any IT solution other than this newly fancy-dancy AI stuff. If SAP comes to you and says 1 in 10 times we leak data to the dark web, you would cancel that SAP contract at that very moment. But that's the reality of this new technology. So a bit longer context explanation of why security is for us so key and adamant and important, and also why this guardrail is important. Now, if you introduce such technologies within a company, you don't need to guardrail for somebody putting in idiotic stuff into an internal, say, chatbot. Why? If somebody does that today without the chatbot, starts to hurl insults at a colleague of yours, there is something called labor law with which you can get that person and get that person expedited out of the company for good reason. You do not need to guardrail for that. But as an example, let's go to a bit more heavily regulated industries. We work a lot in financial services industries. And financial client advisor for one of our customers in the US, she would not be allowed to simply give you an advice like that. She is guardrailed by regulations from the Financial Market Authority or authorities. There are multiple instances of regulators in that case, but also from the internal guidelines of that company itself, what she is permissible to say to you as a customer. Now, if any such AI system, retrieval augmented generation, whatever you want to call it, chatbot, etc. system is not guardrailed with these type of regulations and internal procedures, guess what? You will be able to quote jailbreak such a system, effectively kind of like generate answers that are outside what is permissible as per regulation or as per internal procedures. That will land the company immediately into hot water internally, but also externally towards the regulators. And that's just one example. There are many more. I think I stop here. Maybe Nebo, you want to say something about this shockingly, in my view, shockingly cavalier approach to security of some of these new tools, like as an example, this Claude Code Chrome extension.
Yeah, it's even worse than that. Actually, when they implemented and announced it, the ratio was 23 or 24%, and they tried to reduce it to 10 or 11%. It means, as you said at the beginning, actually we had a chance one quarter that something bad happened. So I mean, it's quite bad reputation for Chrome, for Cloud Chrome extension or Cloud as AI tool. But this thing will happen in the future as well. I mean, we have to be cautious. We have to test it. We have to be actually to monitor all threats on the market. We also noticed very early that this thing happen and react upon this. So I mean, it's good to discuss about these things. So I cannot add anything more than that. Especially, okay, one thing, especially we are working with highly regulated market. So actually, financial industries, government industries, we have for our own product to be very, very careful this thing not to happen or to minimize risk of this thing to happen.
Okay, thank you, Nebo, for this dialogue, for the discussion with Dorian. So we again we discussed the topic from a broader perspective, but again when we were preparing for this webinar, we all mentioned the case of ECB, European Central Bank, and also in my personal experience, which obviously is much more relevant, when I was at speaking engagement for the company, every time that I mentioned this use case and this relation that we have with probably the most renowned bank in Europe, everyone was shocked because of the pace of innovation, the promise that we have in our products, and paired with extreme standards that they have. So every time I use it as a weapon. So, and within this context, I'd like to ask you two different perspectives, again, as a CEO and as a security manager, why that use case is was such relevant, and how we tackled that extreme challenge that now is a passepartout for many other customers. Dorian, would you like to comment first?
Sure. I'm sure I'm a big fan of what the European Central Bank does, and also especially what they do in terms of thinking through how a regulator can make use of the current possibilities of a modern AI-driven technology stack. Technically speaking, the European Central Bank isn't a very old institution. It was founded back in 1998. It was really becoming operational only around 2000, so that makes it a bare 25 years. Compared to some of the other central banks that trace their roots back 100, 200 years, that actually is literally nothing. That gives them another approach. So they don't necessarily have, quote, that much legacy like maybe other of these central banks. So as a part, and that's all public what I'm going to tell here, because we've gone through the official RFP, RFI, RFP, etc. processes like any such institution needs to procure a new technology. They, back 4 or 5 years ago, set out to understand how NLP techniques can support their supervisory process. So for everyone here who's not as familiar like maybe we are by now, what the central bank does, the central bank like an ECB or Deutsche Bundesbank, or here in Switzerland, the Swiss National Bank, they have, I simplify a bit, the monetary side of the house that sets interest rates, and then they have the supervisory side of the house that effectively kind of like controls whether the financial markets perform along the rule book that they have imposed. In the case of the Euro system, that's called single supervisory mechanism, with which they sort of guardrail the financial services companies. And as a part of that RFP at, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, they came and asked for a cloud-first approach. I literally fell off the table when I read that, and I called as part of the Q&A session of any such RFP segment. We actually submitted questions and asked, are you serious about that? Because I thought, well, central bank with all of these very sensitive data sets, they would not go cloud, but they do. Why? It gives them an ability to scale faster, to bring innovation across the bank. and with that, effectively rethink the way they do, as an example, in the part of the bank we work, how they do and apply regulatory supervision in the financial markets. And you can do that safely today. Virtual private cloud is the keyword here. And with that, we got started. What was then coming along is we did a quote traditional enterprise search type solution with a lot of NLP machine learning techniques to identify risks in many thousands, many millions of documents. It says here on the slide 50 millions, by now we're at 80 millions. 80 million documents, and in each of these documents is an average about 270 pages big, so that actually makes for a big index. In the good old search world, TF, IDF type world. And now we have, over the past 2 years, together with our friends and the family over at the ECB, implemented effectively Athena Chat, which is a solution that you know from ChatGPT or similar solutions. We talked about Claude, but whereby the whole supervisory team, that's about 5,000 users, can quote chat with all supervisory data sets. Now, there is one thing that the audience should know. These are obviously not kind of like everyday data sets. This goes all the way to what, say, Deutsche Bank has to report about their credit and liquidity and operational risks over the last 3 weeks. They do that on a weekly basis. That goes up all the way to the board level minutes, where, as an example, the board discusses risk exposure in certain markets. The ECB needs to know that because they regulate these banks and effectively check whether the financial market stability is still there or not. Now, obviously, with such sensitive documents, you need to have and you need to apply the highest security standards. And every one of us here on this call who has been seeing this in the relation to, as an example, GPT solution knows that robust permission enablement in large-scale vectorized indices is not a standard feature with anyone outside what we do. But if you, as an example, some of our customers, but they say also some of our competitors here, they do role-based document access control as a way to control access, you immediately know that you effectively have chunk level data leakage. Why? Because maybe the time is not here. We can do that to the Q&A. I'm happily explaining the finer details of that. The very short version is that if you have document level role-based access control, and you have at the same time a vectorized index with chunks, it's initially impossible to kind of like check all the chunks, whether the document that you refer to is the one that you're permissible to see. So by definition, you're going to have document leakage or chunk leakage, so to speak, which is absolutely out of the question for a central bank. So as an example, we had over the past 2 or 3 years to review the entire security composure of our platform, including the whole permissioning, to ensure that for every last item in the platform, we know where it is, what it does not, who is allowed to see it, who is allowed not to see it, including the full audit log of that. And that in real time, in the moment you chat with such an index at sub-second response times. Why? In the moment you have just one of those things gone wrong, the trust is gone. And trust is essentially the core element what any bank has to bring to the table, especially the central banks. So I cannot stress that enough. If you go at building these GenAI applications with that trust focus in mind, it might be a bit more cumbersome than simply, hey ho, here we go. But in the longer term, it's the only way to ensure that these type of technologies not only drive value, but also drive value responsibly without suddenly exposing a company to an attack vector that they would not have seen prior years. Nebo, I believe you have a very firm view on that too.
Yeah, I mean, Dorian explained it so well. I can just add that I used to say that ECB is a fortress, and actually they tested us many times, and it's continuous in the process, and we pass all these tests, and this is real proof that our product is very secure. I mean, I cannot add anything else to that. Simon?
Okay, so we are reaching the moment of the Q&A. So I'll ask the audience if they have anything that they want to inquire us about, if they feel we should expand on any topic we touched. So we have a few minutes. Okay, I see here from our technical team, we got sent one question. Accuracy and precision seem to be more qualitative challenges among the ones you mentioned. How do GR address these? So I think, but again, the audience could confirm, GR stands for General Regulations, or I believe we are getting into the territory of the relation between what we discussed today and the AI Act. No guardrails. Okay. We got.
I'll take that. So I'll take that question.
Okay.
Sure.
Dorian?
I think we have that in some of the slides, don't we? Sort of a brief overview how such a system looks like. Sort of in the background slide set, don't we? Slide 14. Slide 14. Maybe you want to bring that up and we reply to Harvey's question immediately.
Apparently, the slides.
Go out of presentation mode, unskip slide 14, 15, yeah, and then we're good to go.
Okay. Let's see if I can make it.
Till we go there, Harvey, here's the thing, right? Any retrieval augmented generation system, and to your point, you're right, accuracy and precision has nothing to do with guardrails. Any retrieval augmented generation system in a simplified version has, like the name implies, a retrieval part and a generation part. The retrieval part being often simply a vectorized database. In detail, it's a bit subtly more complex than what you think it is initially. It's page 14, enhanced drag. How does it work, Simone? That's the slide I'd like to have checked it. And now the thing is, what I explained before about the piece about, as an example, make sure that you respect internal procedures, but also as an example that you respect the entire regulatory setup, say in a financial services industry, or say in healthcare, or say if you're in any other industry that's regulated, right? Then you will have a basic interest outside accuracy and precision to ensure that what gets exposed to the search piece in itself is already the right thing to expose to, right? So what you see on this slide, thank you, Simone, you have whatever is the question, then there is a prompt generation. Prompt generation implies prompt expansion, query expansion, all the rest of it. And at that stage, you essentially, before going to the search piece, you want to check that whatever you have in this prompt is within the perimeter of what's permissible to be searched in the index. And I explained that with, as an example, this guardrails for, as an example, what's permissible in the financial services market, where a wealth advisor, as an example, is not necessarily entitled to give you stock recommendations, right? So essentially, the guardrail at this stage is an insurance policy to make sure you do not jailbreak the system. Now, you go and expose that to an LLM. Now, everyone here on the call maybe has seen that already. It is not trivial to ensure that answers are based solely on the search chunks, or better say the chunks returned from the search part exposed to the LLM. An LLM, if it's not really well controlled, has an ability to inject, not an opinion, it's not sentient, but effectively inject its own know-how into this. Again, before exposing an answer to, as an example, a financial markets client advisor, you want to absolutely ensure that this is not outside, as an example, that regulatory boundary, because otherwise you're going to be in hot water again. Now you can say, hey, this is censorship. Yes, to some extent it is. But then again, I would refer to this as this is the normal way to be done business. That same FCA, that same financial client advisor, forget about all the AI stuff, She today goes through training and repeat training not to make that mistake if she's not permitted to give stock advice, to be lured by a company, by a customer into giving her that stock advice. So what you do here is effectively nothing else than reflect what is already done in the non-AI world to transport that in the AI world. That's how we understand guardrailing. It's one aspect, there are many more, but that's an important aspect in our view to make sure that any such system is secure from that perspective.
Thank you, Dorian. Nibo, would you like to add anything more from a technical perspective or?
Well, Simone, this is quite technical, I would say, and this diagram depict very good what Dorian tries to say. I like this one. From the security point of view, I mean, we are waiting for a security standard to actually be implemented, like ISO 42001, and we still have this EU AI Act to be compliant. So actually, it's next year solid date. Now it's preparation, but I don't have nothing else to add to Dorian's.
Okay, so I believe that some last remarks that we could do actually concern this architecture, since some of the questions touched upon some of these core elements. If we want to make some final remarks on our architecture, probably Nebo, this is more for you than for Dorian. Would you like to add any last comment on this architecture?
This is like when we design these all elements, starting from software development, because given or taken, we are a software development company. We try to implement security far left, which means that we implement security at the beginning of coding. We don't wait to develop the product and then put it secure. So we have security controls inside of the development to fix possible vulnerabilities and actually to try to mitigate the risk, as I would say. And starting from this zone, we are really security is in the our foundation of software development, and we really testing very thoroughly. I mean, our team with great knowledge testing very thoroughly our product, and I believe we do a great job in this perspective. I could not say something else than that.
Okay, great. So our time together today has come to an end. And yeah, we believe and we hope that you gained some insightful information by this webinar. Again, the promise is really tremendous, and all enterprises need to learn, need to be educated, and customers need to leverage the expertise of those companies that have gained some notable customers, again, like ECB. So thanks again for being here today. We invite you to schedule a demo with us in case you want to know more about the products. We also will get back to all of you in case you have any additional questions by email so that we don't left anything unfinished. And we also will get back to you with some of our technical white papers around data protection. Yeah, and we can also offer many other resources that you can see from this last slide, from a really insightful podcast that touches upon cultural aspects and much more, technical and cultural aspects, blog, case studies, and white papers, as I said. Thank you all again for being here with us today, and we all hope to see you in the next webinar. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Very welcome.